Hey everyone. Obviously, if you're listening to the podcast, you heard Richie mention I froze. And all I have to say is so you guys want to start a podcast and run one. Sometimes you have issues. I'd like to thank Richie, obviously, for coming on here, giving us his time and his insight. I've been trying to get him to do something here with me for a second, so I definitely appreciate it. Buy his book. I bought it. I'm glad to get a signed copy coming my way. Can't wait to take a look at it. I'll be uploading a photo, obviously, when I have it in support of Richie. We'll have his LinkedIn in the YouTube description, so feel free to contact him, especially as we await to see where he actually ends up. Maybe a lot of you could possibly be helped by somebody like him. If not, I mean, it's a good guy to know. He knows a lot of people, and I'm sure the community can all use good people these days. So this week's video isn't going to highlight a specific person from Green Banner Gang. I want to highlight Green Banner Gang as a whole. So for anyone out there right now who is struggling, doesn't have a job, trying to get support, Green Banner Gang in general on LinkedIn, you can search for it. You can reach out to my previous guest from episode 2, Rachel Johnson. She can direct you a whole lot of ways. Go to greenbannergang.com, another great place to actually get some insight. And it's a great place. It's a great community. There's a lot of folks, unfortunately, in there also looking for jobs. So you can have people supporting one another. You have people helping and guiding people with directing on what they're seeing in the industry or what you should maybe write your resume on. So definitely give that a look. There's a lot of great people in there. So anybody who's actually looking to hire, that is a great spot to actually find individuals in there. There's a lot of qualified people from all sorts of different industries all across the world. A lot of people hurting out there. So I want to highlight Green Banner Gang in general as a whole. Thank my episode 2 guest for actually putting forth so much of her own time and effort into this, and is still hanging out there, and she's only expanded her abilities to help, especially with her consulting and coaching gig that she's now doing as well. So just a quick follow-up for the Green Banner Gang segment today. Anyways, thank you all for watching. Feel free to like and subscribe, share this video. I plan to do a ton more. There's a lot of great guests, a lot of great content coming your way. Meeting out. Take care. Talk to you guys all soon. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Decline Invite, the only invite worth accepting. I'm your host, Ryan Drumheller, the extroverted IT leader, and today's episode is titled Head and Heart. I'm really excited to have today's guest. I started following this gentleman years back, watched his unfortunate fallout, his rise under underground admins, and to his newest journey. He's one of the most direct, creative, unfiltered, to tell you how it actually is recruiters in the game, and really pulled my attention over these last few years. He's hands down my favorite recruiter from a no BS and creative perspective. And today I welcome Richie Lampani.
Thanks for having me,
Welcome,
Ryan.
Richie.
Yeah, that was quite the introduction. I have to live up to it. So appreciate it.
Hey, you will. I have every belief. So let's go right into it here. Let's get a little bit about your background. Who are you? Tell everybody who doesn't know you, which has got to be few people at this point, being that you
Yeah.
got like 55,000 individuals in your network.
I can't crack 50. LinkedIn keeps doing the thing. Well, or I write a post, but LinkedIn does they hibernate followers every once in a while. So I'll get right to 50,000 and it'll drop back down to 49,000. Also, occasionally I write a crazy post and people unfollow me for it. But I'm Richie Lampani. I'm originally from Grand Rapids, Michigan. I went to school at Davenport and Western and CC. It took a long time to get through school for me. I worked at some bars in the Grand Rapids area. I moved into the music industry directly after college. I used to manage it, or was the marketing director at the Intersection. I toured with bands. I booked clubs from Denver to Miami and managed acts. And then Robert Half said they wanted to hire somebody different to run the recruiting out of Grand Rapids. And kind of the rest is history. I moved to New York from there and Chicago and now Atlanta.
Different indeed. That's what caught my attention. We're we're not all everybody's, favorites or cup of tea, as they say, but you being the way you are is what drew me in, and I went, "Man, I wish I could be that unfiltered and that honest," and, yeah, especially today in this world, really can't be, and you are getting away with it in a way that is genuine, though, like, this is how it is, and I definitely appreciate that.
Yeah. What's interesting is there are things I don't say that I do to kind of preserve the peace, if you will. So that's a business thing. And also, I think really honestly, there's a point in your life where you reach an age and it just doesn't matter anymore. So I don't know if it was the music industry or all the years in the bar, but like beginning my career at because I was at big agencies and I really had to watch what I was saying. And then going into my 40s, I was kind of like, I don't want to work with people that don't understand me or don't align with me. So I moved to the boutique agencies and like I'll give you an example. I was wearing Air Maxes and overalls into a meeting with a big bank, and my boss at that time was kind of like, "What are you doing?" And this was at a boutique agency, and I was like, "This is what we wear to work. Like, what do you want me to do? Wear a suit?" And we got in, and one of the IT directors was just said, "I don't care what you guys wear as long as you fill the roles, right?" So that kind of clicked with me. And then in New York too, like we learned pretty early on in New York that the engineers didn't want to deal with somebody that wore a suit. They just didn't. And we were doing a lot of different stuff from, full stack to infrastructure to project management. And we did. When I started out there, the first place I worked, we had to wear a suit to work every single day. And New York's real hot in the summer, so it sucked. And then I moved to
Very
another
sweaty.
company and the littler company I was at, I wore a suit my first day. I got farmed out to do internal and set up teams, and I got into one of these startups I don't think exists anymore, but we were doing mostly Internet of Things and wore a suit, and the guy's like, "What do you do? What are you doing?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "We don't wear suits and no one will talk to you if you do." So that's kind of what happened with that. And then I went back to a big agency and they're like, "You got to wear a suit." So that lasted a while. And then now here I am back doing this. I'll wear a polo if it's an important meeting, it's kind of where I'm at.
Sure. Yeah, no, you'll dress for the type of meeting is what I've always done,
Right.
but otherwise just be comfortable. I would rather work with somebody like what you just said that the IT director said. I don't care what you wear, as long as you're great at getting the job done. That's what I care about.
Right.
I wish there was more people that were like that, but you're hitting the nail on the head. There's so many that have a script, so to say.
And I've been interviewing a lot lately, and it's pretty much always, I mean, I've interviewed and set up interviews with people that are very high level, where you'll get a COO that'll wear a 3-piece suit, and then you'll get the CTO will wear a t-shirt. And I just did an interview with a CEO of a custom software company in Grand Rapids that he had I think it was a Nike t-shirt on, and I had a polo on and he excused himself. And it's like, no, this is what I need, right? I've got to dress on an interview like I want the job, right? I wanted them to be, and I know people hate this, but I want the people that I'm interviewing with to dress how I'm going to be expected to dress when I'm there. It used to be called putting on airs, right? As the interviewee, I've got to look professional. I have to indicate that I have interest and I'm going to try to put myself together. It is not on the person with the job to do that. It is on the person with the job they're offering to represent the company how they are to be represented, right? And yes, there is professional courtesy. So I guess he could have said before we talked, "I'm going to wear a t-shirt." I only had a polo on. I didn't even have pants on, Ryan. So I'm just kidding. I had pants on. But you get what I'm saying? Like it's a shirt either way. I didn't go get a tuxedo press for an interview. It's a shirt, right? So it's not we put too much thought into these things and they really don't matter at the end of the day. So
You took the words right out of my mind. I was gonna say we're programmed to think about clothing, like especially when it comes to interviews or where we're working. Uh, and I've went through the interview roulette, so to speak, and the best conversations I've had so far were with individuals that just wore t-shirts and a hat, like kind of like what you're dressed in right now.
yeah.
And I went, cool. This is real. That's great. It doesn't matter to me. We're having a great conversation, and probably is a place I'd rather work versus the suit and tie. You got to dress a certain way. Well, now we're talking about micromanaging, and that's not me.
Yeah, the best managers I've worked with over the years have been, I'll tell you, there's a guy, Dave Rumpf, at Roadrunner out of Milwaukee. Dude wears like a sweatshirt when he talks to me. He does it when he interviews people too. Dave, I'm going to forget his last name, who's the DBA manager at Roadrunner. The dude works, his basement looks like a hunting lodge. He wears like a graphic tee and a trucker hat, just like what I have. No one quits that job. They do not turn over people. But Dave, I feel like is the DBA manager is not Dave, but forgive me if I'm wrong. Dave, and Keisha, who are the best three managers there, hands down. People don't quit, but they also don't. They know what they're talking about, right? So when I'm putting people in front of them, I don't have to do extra prep to say, I always tell people wear a polo at least, but I don't have to say like all this extra. Know your shit, and they will hire you, and they know what they're talking about. So AI, nothing else is gonna trick them. So yeah, those are my favorite kinds of people. I also work with people that have to wear a freaking button down and tie on their interviews, and they'll reject people if they don't have a button down on. It's the impetus of the recruiter, imperative of the recruiter to tell them what you need to wear. Sometimes the people don't want to work for a company like that. That's fine. But yeah, the best managers I've ever worked with never say anything about dress. They will if there's other stuff going on. Like we had one of the managers at Roadrunner, a guy was doing a high level cyber role or trying to get one. And he did the interview in a hockey jersey, walking his dog on his phone. There's a line. So
Yeah.
obviously they didn't move him for, and he told us he was only looking because he wanted to move to Russia or something like that. And it was remote. But anyway, yeah, there's a line. That guy obviously didn't care. He was at AT&T for a long time. Yeah. I have no idea how we got on this topic, but
I love the war stories. Let's well, maybe you hit this first icebreaker then, but I have a feeling you have probably a better story than this. But what is one of the ones that you can tell? But what's one of your wildest recruiting stories?
I wrote a post about this a while back. So I was in New York. I would say the name of the company was Titan, but I'm pretty sure that wasn't that because I don't think they were the client in the next place I worked. Anyway, there's a company downtown in a Wall Street area, and I was doing a high-level developer position, had some SharePoint and some other stuff involved. I had interviewed a guy, we'll call him Chad, on site because we always did our interviews on site back then. Even if it was a remote job, you had to come into you had to be in the area. So we did the screen with me, and then Chad showed up to the first round, which I walked at that company. That company was owned by a couple of Russian guys. They were very big on white glove service. So we walked in Chad to the client first round. He immediately went to the HR round after they really liked him, and then hired a lot of money too. I think it was like he was getting paid like $150 an hour or something like that. And this is in like 2012. So this is good money. And then get a start day. And we always walk people in their first day as well, right? Really, truly white glove service. And I showed up, and a guy walks up. He said, "Richie?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm like, I'm confused." And he goes, "I'm Chad." I'm like, "No, you're not." And he's like, "I'm Chad." And then I'm like, "I've met Chad 3 times. You're not Chad. I have a copy of Chad's ID right here," because I had his paperwork. And then this woman, I think her name was Becky, walks down. She said, "Hi, Richie, where's Chad?" And I go, "This guy says he's Chad." And this guy would not budge. He was Chad. And I'm like, it was like a 10-year age difference too. It wasn't close. It wasn't like I screwed something up. It was, he wouldn't let it go. And then we finally got Chad, the actual Chad, on the phone. And he literally said, "That's my cousin or something. He can do the job as good as me. Just let him start." And we're like, what is happening?
Oh,
I'm not going to go into too many more of the details, but for people that know, this was part of a H-1B scam that was going on in New York back then. And they would have like 12 people living in a house under one C2C is what they call that. And someone would interview, and then and now we have this again, right? With video where they're faking or AI. I've had a couple of recruiters that did AI interviews that it turned out they were interviewing an AI image. It wasn't even I don't even know what the technology is behind it, but one recruiter got this from TikTok. She had just happened to watch a TikTok right before, and then she's talking to it was a Golang developer, which is a very hard role to fill in the United States. And she's talking to the person, and she felt like it was off. Like there was something with the screen. She said, "I need you to raise your hand and put it in front of your face," because she had just seen the trick on a TikTok, and he wouldn't do it. And I'm like, oh, here we go, man. Here we go.
Wow.
And I've caught a couple of people. One guy had glasses on. I was doing an interview for a Salesforce dev. I do all my screens on video now. Like if I can talk them into it. Usually everybody's cool with it now because there's no on-site requirement. But I had a guy early on during ChatGPT. I guess it's been a year or two now, but I was doing a NetSuite interview, NetSuite and Salesforce, and he had glasses on. I could see his phone. I could see it. And I kept going because I'm like, how far is he going to carry this? And I was hoping maybe it was his notes because I couldn't read what he was, I could just see that he had his phone set up and it was scrolling while he was talking. And his cadence was very weird. It was like, if I'm reading, well, but I'm trying to do it so my face doesn't move. And I got like, I don't know, 5 minutes in, and I said, "What'd you eat for breakfast today? I'm just curious." And it screwed him up so bad that he lost track of where he was. Plus, whatever he was using caught me talking. So whatever he was just saying scrolled off. And then I go, "I'm sorry, my brain just works like that. What were you saying?" And he lost it. He couldn't recover it all. And then I stopped him and I said, "I don't think this is a good fit for you. And I think you know why." And he's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "So I would probably not do interviews this way anymore," because it was pretty obvious. So, he's like, "Okay." Yeah, those are a couple of the wild things. AI is scary, man. Like they're going to have to really replace recruiters and engineers with AI, or they're going to have to figure out how to combat this because it's pretty wild.
Yeah, the combating the AI part is it's why everyone in cybersecurity is so afraid because it's just opening more and more and more, and we're not fast enough really with combating it to your yeah the good stuff when you use AI for it, yeah, the bad stuff, that's the scary stuff.
The good stuff is not making your resume, just for the record. It's not included.
Very much. No, I'm not writing down certain things I've tried for the sake of testing the waters, seeing what happens, right?
Seems like you've been on Grok too much, is what I heard.
I've been all over AI, but
I had I had Grok, Claude, ChatGPT. I think that's it. I tried another one, I didn't like it. But I'm down to I like Grok. I really do. And I have the $20 now subscription to ChatGPT. I used to have the fancy one, but they screwed it up. That newest release is not good. Like he tempered it down and whatever. I wasn't using it for therapy anyway, but it screwed up the interactions for just normal day to day. I don't know what they did to it, but it is not good. It's not the same. So I canceled the big subscription. It just wasn't working the same way. It's forgetting there's no continuity in the conversation anymore. It sucks.
I don't
Anyway,
know how many times I have to like repeat it or give it the same thing, and I'm like, well, you said you were going to do this and you didn't. Like you didn't change anything. You gave me the same thing back. Like, yeah, nobody wants to look at my histories. I'm like yelling at a robot.
I'll be honest. Once in a while, like I say stuff like, "I'm gonna write Sam Altman a nasty email if you don't fix this right now." So yeah,
and it still screws it up, and it's like I'm calling your bluff.
if you put one more M dash, and I'm gonna unplug you. I don't know, that people are so weird about the M dashes. So now I'm like, before, like nobody cared, but dude, if you scroll LinkedIn, I can tell you every ChatGPT post on there based on M dashes and certain phrases. The other thing too, I don't know if it's part of the update, but with resumes, when people are doing this, copy the job description and then make the resume with it. The newest version of, and I posted about this the other day, the newest version of ChatGPT is when you do that, it is going to put a sentence out of the summary from the job description into your summary or somewhere in the experience. So one of our recruiters had somebody they loved the other day, and I was reading the resume and I was like, this is the exact wording of the job description. And she's like, no, it's not the same. And I pulled them up and I'm like, this is word for word what I personally, because I do my job descriptions in ChatGPT, but I always edit it. So it's at least coming from me a little bit. But it is word for word what I wrote. So I remember everything I write. And I have an odd recall on things I write. I'm a published writer before my book. So I have an odd recall on things I write and I obsess about it. So I'll read it over and over. If it's really good, I'll read something I wrote like 100 times because it's just like, I'm like, how did I think of that? And I'm really proud of my work product. So this was one of those where I was writing a good job description for a company I really like. And that was the phrase out of there. And he put it in a summary, but he didn't. ChatGPT did. So with the new update, there's some mimicry going on and you have to be really careful about that. I can imagine there's going to be some plagiarism cases. And I know in schools, they're already getting people on that because it's just plagiarism. So, yeah, that's an interesting thing that's been happening recently.
No, all fascinating stuff, especially those that are in the job market, which I imagine if anybody is not an ostrich, there's a lot of people, unfortunately, in the job
Right. A
market.
lot.
So, I mean, good info, good advice. Definitely reread your resumes. The good people that are trying to like, get ahead of the ATS, so they say. But I'm sure we'll be talking a little bit more about that throughout this. Here's a fun one, I think, for you. It's a buzzword that you'd ban forever. To I hate hearing this word, or I
Nice.
hate hearing this
Mine
term.
are like very LinkedIn and resume specific, but there's a couple I don't ever want to see in a tagline again. Servant leader, girl dad, boy dad, fur dad. That's like the big things. Like there's more, I'm sure, but like I haven't. So if I was still at the last company that the bad thing happened at, that I don't want to talk about it anymore, he had some per se that makes me want to punch through a wall, especially if it's used inappropriately. And
Mm.
I think circle back's funny still because it doesn't mean anything. But yeah, the tagline stuff is crazy on LinkedIn, especially sometimes in resumes. But servant leader doesn't mean anything. It's words like that, like and when you're trying, and we'll loop it back to job seeking. But if you're trying to find a job, if you put something that is completely unquantifiable without actually being in the new job, you're just wasting everybody's time. Like, I don't care how empathetic you are. Can you do the job? You'll show me the empathy later. You probably lose your job, right? If that's a big core thing. But you saying you're a servant leader previously to working somewhere doesn't mean anything. It literally doesn't mean anything. What are you going to say? What's the opposition to that? Like, I'm going to apply for
Dictator, I guess.
jobs and say I am a harsh micromanager that does not believe in doing any work myself, but I will direct everybody. Like, no one's that insane. So the natural reverse of that is you don't need to say you're a servant leader. It's just a waste, right? So that's the one I don't want to see anymore.
It's crazy because in my interview roulette, that I should say, I've had that question, like, explain your leadership style. Okay, well, I mean, I could give you all the names of individuals that have worked for me if you would like to ask them what my actual interview style is. But like,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'm going to say probably servant leadership, but normally I try to make sure I explain, like, here's how I'd handle situations, or here's direct situations I've dealt with and how I went about it. And just don't leave it at just servant
Right.
leadership.
Okay, right. And so that would never, so okay, so back in the day, I'm older. So back in the day, if I said, I would just say lead by example, right?
Yeah.
So, or I'm in the mud with them, and sometimes they don't want that, right? I don't know anywhere anymore, but back in the day, like maybe even as recently as 5-10 years ago, they would want to hire somebody that wasn't going to have to interject themselves in every situation, right? And now we've trained recruiters to look for, I can envision it, Pam and HR saying, Chad, we're really looking for someone that's a servant leader. And then Chad's like, okay. So then Ryan goes in the interview and says, I'm lead by example. And Chad goes, rejected. He's not a servant leader. What are we even talking about anymore? Like, that's the problem with buzzwords like quiet quitting. What is the new one? Quiet promotions. What are you talking about? Like, why are we doing this? And the kids, we have an 8 and 11-year-old, and they come home and they're like, this means this. And I'm like, I can't think of an example, but I'm like, it absolutely does not. And we invented that like in the 70s. Like, you guys are not original. I'm not that old, but like the stuff, it's like this big weird circle. Quiet quitting. Bro, you're being lazy. Like, what are you talking about? We're always looking for the next thing unless you're very, very happy in this market. No one's very, very happy. You're still going to talk to the next thing. You're not quiet quitting. You're doing a shitty job. That's what you're doing, right? Apply for a job, do your job. You don't need a term for it. The other ones are like quiet promotion. What? That doesn't mean
I haven't even
anything.
heard of that one. That is
Why? I
interesting.
just saw it the other day. It was on a LinkedIn news article. I didn't read it. I don't read them anymore. Like the one that got me. So I was trying to coin loudly something at the end of when I got let go of the one. I was trying to be loudly. I wish I could remember. It was the opposite of quiet quitting, but people thought it was loudly excelling or something like that. They're like, you're just doing your job. I'm like, that's the point, right? Toxic
That's
positivity. Can I not just be optimistic? Like what are we doing? So
You are
anyway,
100% right, though. Yeah, no, now that you say it, it's like, yeah, there are so many buzzwords for everything.
mm,
Uh, and we're not just acting like humans anymore. It's like, hey, is Fred doing a great job? If not, I'll talk to him. Simple as
right.
that.
I
Fred's doing
think
a
he's
great job. I'll leave him
quietly
alone.
quitting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now I have to worry. Like, what is Fred really thinking about?
Right.
Uh, I like to think of myself as a good human connection individual, though.
Mhm.
Like, I look for that more than anything else. Like, we've talked about clothes, and I don't even care necessarily what your resume has. Like, I kind of look for your attitude and your carry and your drive and your will, and I can
Mhm.
kind of figure that out. In 10 minutes, probably in talking with you, I can kind of get your vibe of who you are as a person.
Right.
Like
Right.
like we hired a sales guy yesterday for our consulting company, and I knew immediately that maybe that he didn't necessarily know all the sales tactics for maybe consulting, but
Mhm.
he was a good person. Ended up telling us he worked for a nonprofit later on down the line. I'm like, ding ding, radar was right. And just the messages I got after that of like, thank you, this is so great. I can't wait. Like all this positivity of like, that's
Mhm.
what we should get back to.
Mhm.
Not the, well, like you said, Chad is quiet quitting in the corner over here.
Yeah.
He's doing
Sales guys are
60% of
weird
the
too,
job.
man. Right. Yeah. Everybody's quiet quitting.
Yeah, really.
That's interesting about sales. So sales is one of the things that I've had a lot of experience hiring and had mixed results. How many salespeople did you interview out of curiosity?
Very small, just people we know. So it's
Okay,
not
got it.
actually like there's a role posted and we're interviewing people. We're taking recommendations, and if they fit
All
our
right, so that's
vibe,
so different.
different. Yep.
Salespeople are a weird one. It's very different. And you coming from an engineering background, I imagine that was kind of different for you to interview salespeople. Because what's the qualifiers for that? Otherwise, I think you're on the right track. But with salespeople versus engineers, you're the extroverted engineering leader. Or what did you say at the beginning?
Extroverted IT leader.
Okay. So that's an oxymoron. So with salespeople, you have to be careful too. And like this is something with these buzzwords. You want them to put all these numbers and this stuff on resumes, right? This goes back to LinkedIn. So we want to see what percentage of quota did you hit? Okay. There's a problem with that. So what percentage of quota did you hit? 125? 125 of what?
Right.
Right? How bad is the company you're coming from doing, or how well are they doing? How unattainable is that? So this is the issue with resumes, especially with salespeople. And this is what I struggle with a lot. It doesn't come down to that. It goes back to what you said. Is this person a human connector? Because it's really big in sales. Do I need a human connector? Is this person a grinder? Does that work? They talk a lot and they're good at talking, but are they talking for the right reason? So it's such a weird place to be with hiring salespeople. Interesting. Yeah, I just wondered about that because that's a different experience for you too.
Yeah, sales, like from our perspective, like we know what we are. I think that's important as well.
Mhm.
It's not like we're hiring roles that we can pay them immediately and make an actual full-time job out of this. We understand that we're very much startup. We're very much in that phase of, get trusted recommendations.
Mhm.
I look forward to the day that we actually have to post a role that we don't know somebody for, because that's the great thing. All of our connections, we kind of do know people right now, but if we did it right, that'll grow to a point where we have to actually hire people we don't know. And I've interviewed, countless times, especially for IT jobs and for other companies. And even in those style of interviews, I really don't care what's on your resume. I've looked at your resume. That's why you're in the interview, just to see what was on it. And I will be completely honest, my style is very unique. Uh, I will pick individuals I think can do the job. I'll pick individuals that I'm like, I have no idea what this is, but I need to talk to them. I'm just so
Right.
curious,
Right.
and I just kind of want to learn from that. And then maybe people would look at that and be like, well, that's a waste of time. But I'm like, I have to know. Like, I just need to know. And I'll filter in questions that have nothing to do with what the role is. Like, hey, tell me about your favorite TV show. What's your favorite pizza? Because I'll filter and sprinkle them in. Normally I'd build about, 20, 25 questions depending on what they are and how long we have with them. But normally by the end of it, I typically get a person instead of a very anxious or worried or just nervous person at the start. And I've had really good feedback with like, thank you. I felt like I was just talking to you at the end. I'm like, that's what I want to know. I want to know who you are. Like, I want to
Right.
know what your fit is. By some point of the interview or your resume, I'm going to figure out what you kind of know or what your learning style is. Are you egotistical or are you sponge? Are you willing to learn? I'll take somebody 9 times out of 10 that is willing to learn than somebody that is egotistical, right? If it's a job role that I can do that with, that I think that's also important. Like, if it's a major big time, we have to have somebody that really knows. Well, we can't take that risk, and we might have to go with that person.
Yeah,
But
then you just mute Slack and let them do their work usually.
yeah,
I
we hope
worked
they
with
just do
I
it.
we've all worked with that person though, right? That's just a whiz. I knew a SharePoint lady back in Grand Rapids, and I think she's retired, but I'm gonna say it anyway. I couldn't talk to her. And
Yeah.
it wasn't she was egotistical as much as, like, if you talk to her, she goes so far off every direction we were supposed to be on, and then you'd have to reroute. And, she was a genius with it, right? And there's people I worked with especially in New York or Chicago more so, but I didn't wanna talk to them, but they were experts at what they did, right? So there's a line. So when you're small, as small as you are, you have to have a culture that people aren't shitty to each other. Can I say shitty? Is shitty okay? I've said it
Yeah.
4 times now. Okay. Yeah, that's big. That was the big thing with UA too. We had our moments, but for the most part, during the entire thing, there was 2 rules: don't sexually harass anybody, because we had somebody early on do it, and then
Oh,
the
wow.
second rule was be positive, no matter what. If you got to be negative, do it privately. Don't put in general channels how such and such a client sucks at feedback or is not paying enough. We had a couple of those early on, and recruiting is freaking hard. And if you have a negative environment, even in Slack, it's going to make it harder. And we had some of that at the end, but we had a brutal summer. But Amy has such a good thing going with the people that are left. I think that it'll be more than okay. And there's some great clients. So, yeah.
So I think that's actually a really great segue. So building underground admins from scratch, or when to the point that you came in to help her, what what was that like? Obviously, some of it you just kind of went into of even stuff I'm not even dealing with yet, like some of the people you're talking about when there actually is negativity, right? There is a bad situation.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, I have even some of my people that want to either come to me like outside of all of that. They don't want to put it in there, right? Like they at least have the wherewithal to notice that if I do that, it can poison the well and stuff. But what
Mm-hmm.
what was it like building it? The grind, the putting everything into that, the pivots. I mean, I've done something like 3 times now, so it's not a surprise to me when they come up, but I've never been successful at it either, right? I'm trying again. I'm hoping that this is the time, but what was it like for you?
Yeah, I think and I want to start off with this. Underground Admins is successful and will continue to be. So the grind was that in the initially, so me and my entire team and parts of other teams were let go with no notice, no last paycheck, no nothing, no money after at our last agency after we had done like over $1 million in billing the last quarter we were there. The owner felt like we were not a good fit for his brand, decided to not pay any of us and not pay any commission and cut everybody's tech off. So it was literally me and Amy were dating. I don't know if you knew that. And she was working contract for that company when that happened. So we were a long distance relationship already, right? And I was back and forth, but we were in Chicago together when that happened. So I was starting I was already interviewing at Vaco. I was in the final stages because I was done with that company before it happened. I'd already stepped out of leadership. And I was in final stages with Vaco. It was there was logistics issues with it. So I did pull out of that before they rejected me, but I pulled out. I don't know if Brian would admit to that, but I pulled out, but I knew I was going to get rejected anyway because there was such a bad blow up on LinkedIn over what happened between me and
Gotcha.
another person. So we were in Chicago and I had kind of decided that I didn't want to work for agency for someone else again at that point because there was a couple bad experiences. Dude, at one point I was living in Brooklyn, New York, working for these Russian dudes, and their mother got arrested for running a pill mill out of the same building that the agency was in, and that was one of the things. And then this happened with the other place, and then I was interviewing. I was like, man, 50 grand a year, because that's the average pay, 50 to 60 for agency recruiters to go and get and have to do something everybody else's way. When I know that I'll eventually either quit or get fired at agency. I don't want to say that's how I am, but at an agency, I'm very good at what I do. I was going to build my own. It was going to be called Better Than Bad. There was a podcast and resume service and everything else that was better than bad. It was actually on my voicemail, which I didn't know until like 4 days ago. So I was gonna do Better Than Bad. There was a website built, there's a logo made, and she had Underground Admins already. When we're in Chicago, and she's like, I already have clients for this. Like she was doing fractional bookkeeping and HR and compliance. She said, why don't you just add recruiting and we'll change the name and make it. And I'm like, no, the name's really cool. Like people don't get it, which is fine. You don't have to get everything. But
Sure.
Underground is a music club in Atlanta. She comes from teaching, but went into HR after. So she thought the Underground was cool. It's kind of one of those places she grew up around. And then she called it administration for the compliance bookkeeping. The old logo was actually a book opened up on the city of Atlanta, and it was like just sketched out. Oh,
Very
that
cool.
was our logo when it was a teal for a while. Our first couple of clients are custom software and defense, like Department of Defense crap. And then we picked up logistics and stuff. So Underground Admins was cool, man. Like I wasn't doing a lot of biz dev initially and I didn't steal any clients either. So I tried, but I didn't. So our first couple of clients, they knew me. They just knew me, or they referred to me. And the logo changed. We started adding freelancers. The problem, and you might have this going on too, the problem in recruiting right now is that, and I've said this out loud, so I'm not afraid to say it, the top 10% of recruiters really know what they're doing. They're good. Recruiting is a grind, but if you're a good recruiter, it's not hard, right? It's just a grind. You have to put the hours in and you have to be a communicator. Like you have to be able to talk. And you have to be willing to learn about what you're recruiting for. Top 10% have that there crossover between internal and agency, no issues. The next 30% could do it. They could. They need good leadership and they need good training. The bottom 50% of recruiters, and this is across the board, they do not want to be in this job, nor do they care about this job, nor do they care about the people that they're dealing with. They are doing it to be remote, or they're doing it to, I don't know, for whatever keeps them from having to go get a normal job, doing whatever they went to college for. And it doesn't matter to them, and they're not going to learn, and they're not going to learn how to do the job. So that comes into play when you're hiring freelance recruiters. And I think that we have done a tremendous job finding people that were like-minded, that wanted to grind and understood what we were doing. And there's some wonderful people that are still working with Amy at Underground. And there's a lot of people that got hired at other places that they clearly were stolen from us because they were such amazing hires, but we couldn't pay a salary. So there's been some bad apples there. It's the way it is. Recruiters are usually, even if they're suck at their job, they know how to talk about it, right? So I can go and know nothing about AI, ML, quant within banking, which I do know about it. But when I started, I didn't. But I can still talk to somebody well enough to get them to give me the resume and maybe represent them during that. A lot of recruiters learn that early on. They call it a sales job, which you talked about earlier. Don't understand that it's a lot more than sales. So when you're interviewing recruiters without a salary, you got to be open to taking some chances. And that's been the 100% hurdle. We pay a giant amount of commission on these things, but 0% of 0 is 0. So if you're not going to work and not going to do it, and with the market the way it was, orders drag out forever. We just closed a director of IT. God, I think it took us 5 months. Not for lack of, both sides were working on it, but it's a net new role. They didn't really know initially what they wanted. They thought they found somebody internally. They came back around. And that is a drag for a recruiter that's working for free. And they're still not going to get paid for 6 weeks on it, even though the deal closed last night. So if you're not independently wealthy, willing to forego a salary, and have a lot of extra time, it's tough. And that hit us. It hit us over and over and over again. We lost such good people to jobs with salaries because we couldn't do it. I'm on commission, man. I'd love to pay everybody $100,000 a year and come work with me all the time. But when I'm on commission doing it, I can't. So that was a big grind of it. And ultimately why I'm out here in the world looking for a job.
Yeah, no, I mean, you kind of hit the commission nail on the head. Like, you have to be open to some things. I've kind of touted it before, like everybody doing things with us right now already has a job. We're doing it on the side. We're trying to build it that way so that nobody has to struggle. But at the same time, you are struggling in one way because you're not doing it full time. Um, how far can you grow it? Like, we're going to learn all of those things, and you just hope, right? But unless one of us hits the lotto or something, we're not going to get there without grind. So
I won $4 on that $1 billion. I'm going to frame this because I won the lotto when it was $1 billion. It just didn't hit the right numbers.
I think that's the post that goes up. I saw somebody post on LinkedIn that if, like, you say this phrase, I'll share blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you won't, but sure, why the hell not? Because I want to see what everybody else's comments are. That's what I do.
Right.
So this is going to be an interesting one. Why is recruiting broken? Or why isn't it broken? I think you kind of touched on it a little bit.
So it's not. Okay. So this is one of those things too. The idea of recruiting, which is all recruiting really is not broken. Okay. Recruiting, the industry hasn't adapted to a couple things very well. One being LinkedIn connected the entire world, the internet rather, but LinkedIn primarily. You saw 4 years of a massive surge after Microsoft bought it, probably. But it used to be you connected with people and you weren't connecting with everyone in India or Africa or everywhere else, right? So when I started LinkedIn, I think I had maybe 1,500 connects until like 2023. But we connected with people I wanted to talk to about jobs, usually .NET, PHP, stuff like that back then. And then I connected with hiring managers that I wanted to pitch. And that was it. And a lot of times I would disconnect once it was a no, right? Was it what am I staying connected for? And then you saw like Lions, LinkedIn Open Network, whatever that was. And then they start collecting connections because LinkedIn set it up. So second degree, third degree, blah, blah, blah. Well, then COVID happens. I don't know what happened. I went years without going on LinkedIn, years. I was strategic accounts. We had all the people that we needed in our database. Some of the recruiters were using it to add to the database. I didn't have to touch it. I literally think there's a 4-year period where I never went on LinkedIn when I was in Chicago. I popped open LinkedIn and now there's creator mode. There is a follower count, which I think I had like 3,000 when I opened it. Like I think that was summer of 22 or 23. There is this, and this is going to your question. LinkedIn creates this thing when Microsoft buys it where it is suddenly encouraging people to create content, right? Not verified content, not factually checked content, advice and bullshit to sell a resume, a service, a whatever, right? I think that's probably why I stand out to people is because I don't care. Like I'm not like I'm gonna get my business through referrals for the most part. I do resume rewrites. Haven't done any for a while. I raised the price because I was like, I don't even want to do these anymore. So if somebody wants me to do it, I'm going to charge them. But a lot of people are pressing these, and so you get this whole everybody's connected because of social Saturday and follower counts and creative blah blah blah. And then Richie puts up a job, remote, full stack, pays this, only available to US citizens, and I will get 400 applications from Pakistan. Okay. Nothing against the Pakistani people. I'm sure they're very nice. My client won't hire them. LinkedIn just hit me for, I think a job slot's $1,500, right? And you have taken that job slot and buried it. And people say use knockouts. Dude, I can show you at least in my ATS alone, at least 10,000 people over the last 6 months that have marked yes, they're a US citizen and living in the US and live in Africa. We don't have IP tracking on ATSs or job boards or anything else yet. Is recruiting broken? I don't think recruiting is broken. I think the technology that used to assist us has not caught up to the world being connected, right? And I think that and I'll say it, I think it's LinkedIn's fault. Like to be really, really frank about it, I think that LinkedIn specifically, because you don't see this, I mean, sometimes on Indeed, but not really. You see it on LinkedIn. LinkedIn has cornered the market in connectivity, in how we speak to hiring. A lot of the hiring managers I know don't even go on anymore, and made it a degrees of separation thing so that I have to have as many, and I'm almost maxed out, so I can't even. I'm at like 25,000 connections. So at some point, you can't even connect with me anymore because you max at 30. So you need to have 3 degrees of separation to talk to anybody or even see the profile if you're not paying them for their premium service. And then you're paying for job slots, and then you're paying $22 now for in-mails extra beyond your thing. So they've created this mess and then monetize it to a point where we don't have a choice as recruiters but to buy this product that has made in some ways made our jobs appear easier and in other ways have made it exponentially harder. So LinkedIn broke recruiting. To bring it all the way back around, I don't think the idea is broken. I think the top 10%, top 20% will survive. I think the bottom 10% sourcers will survive. Not that sourcers are bad or unnecessary, but the people that are gathering data will be okay. But that middle 70 needs to go find something else to do because AI automation. I don't need someone that's a recruiter that doesn't know what a software development life cycle is. I don't know. If you don't know what you're recruiting for, you're doomed. You are freaking doomed. And I don't care if you're recruiting teachers. If you don't know how to talk to teachers or engineers or whatever you're working on, and if you're not willing to expand your knowledge base and go get certified in some stuff that you're recruiting for, you're doomed. And I think we'll see a lot of the technical people that can get jobs, full stack engineers, React people. that understand technology, we'll see them move into these roles, just like we're losing some of the salespeople, right? So now you have these job titles that we didn't have forward deployed engineer, solutions architect. There's another one, pre sales engineer. These are highly technical people that are extroverted. They're moving into a different sector, and it's necessary because whether it can do it yet or not, AI will take part of coding. AI will take part of recruiting. So these sales jobs that require that human connection piece and being able to sell, that's where a lot of these people are going to move from one spot to another. And recruiters that are just like order taker, resume shufflers, I don't know, laborer, McDonald's is hiring. That there's no place for that. If you want to be good at what you do, you have to learn more than how to type chat GPT, write me an email about this job and then spam it. Nobody needs that. Nobody needed it before. They really don't need it now. So
And it's so exposed. Like I can, name you a time probably a month and a half ago that I interviewed for this job that was told to me one way, and then you meet with the people from the place actually interviewing, and it's like I actually stopped the interview and I was just
yeah.
like, hey, I don't want to waste your guys' time. It seems like what you want is this. What I am is, if that's something you're open to, great. If not, then, I would rather keep our time, you're wasting time doing this. You want somebody very clearly that isn't me, right? They wanted a hands-on IT manager, which I really hate that term, because really that means that you need two different roles and you combine them into one. So you need an engineer and you need a manager. Got it. That's not what I do anymore. I've been in leadership for 12 years. I dabble on my own into IT and whatnot, and I try to make sure that I can at least speak the language, so that when my engineers or my software developers or whatever are speaking to me, I can then go translate that to English, speak to the business or speak to the client. That's what I'm good at. But if you want me in there developing code, well, that was 20 years ago. That's when I started out.
Right.
And that's
I
not
mean,
what the
that's,
recruiter told me, you know?
yeah, that sounds like a couple of clients I've worked with where you're calling. So that's problematic too. But I think you're going to see that also be more of what we see. You know how to do what it's like the recruiter thing, right?
Right.
I'm not going to get a leadership role in recruiting when I'm never going to recruit anymore. We don't need that. Right. So that situation, my first instinct would be on that one is they don't have the money to hire both roles, so they're gonna make
Right.
you do all the work and then give you a title so that they can get you in the door. But we get that even in government. We get it like they're like, we need hands-on keyboard, recent hands-on keyboard, right? So, but that doesn't. I'd like to know more about that one because it's often that they think they need something and they say it, a recruiter especially says it, and then the CTO is like, no, that's not what I want at all, right? So I
Especially when
need
you get a call from like the main, like the owner of the recruiting firm, and he's like, here's what's actually going on. And then I'm sitting in the room in the interview and I'm like, this is just a lie based off what. So I'm like, I am like, at what point what do I do here? So then it's like, maybe this one just isn't for me and you move on. I've had some other ones where it's like, interview for an IT director role. Okay, cool, awesome. Like, let's interview for this. All right, speaking strategically, let's talk about budgets, let's talk about vision. And I get in the room, they're like, oh, what's your range or whatever? And it's like, well, you have that because I know I had to write it, but sure, I'll repeat it. So you repeat it like, oh, would you be open to 30,000 less for that? I'm like, so you're giving a title is what you're trying to sell. You're trying to
right.
sell a title for a resume that I'm probably going to use to leave. Like, I don't understand that either. Like that, an IT director does not get paid. But it was said to me, just put it that way. Like
And
it was like,
then
it was
like
100K. It was like,
we
no,
had
no, it doesn't.
right, we've had those, and like we had a technical architect 2 years ago, and I swear to God, I was like, I'm going to close my company down. I had not had a technical architect role on my desk ever, and she told me. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, this isn't really architecture though. And you're calling it this, but like if I go to the people with this title, they're like 15 years experience and you're telling me you need two and you're paying 90 grand. And I'm like, all right. It doesn't seem right to me. And then we changed it. We call it enterprise software dev, right? I was like, I'm not putting this on anything. And one of the recruiters had done some messaging about it, and people were laughing at him. They're like, you're like 80 grand short on salary minimally. And this is years ago now, but we ended up calling it enterprise software. And this is that too. Like, you get an HR person, no offense to the HR people, but if they're not in that world ever, they title something and then it's just a cycle. So the people working at the company, you go through the company and they're all called technical architect. Bro, if you're writing C sharp, it doesn't make you an architect. Like, it's not even this, you're not even in the same world. It's a different piece of what we're working on. So you get those two with management too. We just filled one that when we got it, that the job description to me, and I'm technical, but I'm not that technical. So the job description read to me like AIML, and I think that they wanted that, or they thought they wanted that. All right. I really believe that when they wrote that, they were like, put it in ChatGPT, wrote a bunch of stuff that they wanted. Really, they just wanted to upgrade their infrastructure, actual network with AI, which is different, right?
Very
You don't need
much different. Yeah.
And so when we start the search, and we didn't talk to a CTO, we talked to someone that was kind of technical, but also didn't. There was a very small IT department, so there was just some mismatch there. First couple of people I submitted would have been really awesome for what I submitted them for, but then when we get to the bare bones of it, the guy that got hired was more of an endpoint infrastructure, but was knowledgeable today. So you get those all the time. Like, I'm a pretty good recruiter, right? But we've had them where somebody says they need cyber and we're doing all the work, and really they need network. Like, it's just those things. And if you don't have a couple of people around you that can kind of suss it out and say, this, we're going the wrong direction with this, like this word doesn't even need to be here. So and then take all that and then tell me why, when you have 500 bad applications and a 2-year recruiter that makes 50 grand a year can't figure out why they're not getting any interviews. It's insanity right now. And we've created all these terms like servant leader and bullshit, and then we have AWS, we have Azure, we have things that are basically the same but different product that won't even talk to each other. And then you've added in this other component, and you have a bunch of kids sitting at home taking naps, day in the life while I walk on my treadmill and walk my dog, and I'm supposed to be calling people on the phone. Why is recruiting broken? Why is the world broken? I mean, come on.
Yeah, that's probably the better answer for
Right.
that. I don't think that we could record for a whole day and still not figure that out.
Yeah, man.
We can come up with a bunch of reasons, but yeah, man. I think here's a great one though. What would you say that leaders still don't understand about what a recruiter's role is? I think that you kind of acknowledged a little bit, but like I think a lot of the jobs that I've worked at almost categorize it all as HR.
Oh, yeah.
There's HR and HR does recruiting, and it's like I've had HR on some of my calls and I've politely asked if they couldn't. Because they just weren't doing a recruiting job. They were just reading.
There's a couple of things here. So US Signal, you know them, I'm sure. They're Michigan based.
Absolutely. They used to be one of my vendors.
Oh, okay. So I know Davin and Killian pretty well. We've been bugging them for years. It was one of my first clients at Robert Half. I did PHP devs there, which is, anyway, you know what I mean. Anyway, so I've been bugging Davin for a while. I send those guys stuff. Like, I just mess with them. Like, I sent Killian a mouth harp because he's a bagpipe player and stuff. Sent it to the office. And then Davin, I went and found out that he does like YouTubes about Magic the Gathering. So I sent a Magic the Gathering card box to his office, and he's like, and I don't put my name on it. And then
we'll see if they ever find this.
No, I tell them after. I'm like, hey, did you get that thing? And I sent Crumble cookies once for HR, not for the engineering managers. Anyway,
their office is very cool too. The railroad station.
Well, that's where I used to work at the intersection, so it was right there. So I knew about it before.
Yeah, awesome.
So the other day, I reached out because I started looking and I'm like for a job, and I want to be internal now. And I said, Davin, I said this to a couple of people, but I was like, hey, you guys have a ton of jobs, and if you need somebody, I'm available, and I'll fly back to Grand Rapids a couple days a week. I'm from there, so hybrid. And he said, well, we have one recruiter. And I'm like, I'm sitting here and I'm looking at the jobs and I'm starting to click in my head why we have not been able to work together. Yeah, because they never worked with UA. And
Gotcha.
I'm like, they just hired they have to have hired 50 people in the last couple, because they got bought by private equity and they've been absorbing all these other companies. And how
Hmm.
do you only have one recruiter? And in my brain, I'm like, I go, is it a function of HR? He goes, yeah, it's a function of HR. I'm like, so there's one person with a title recruiter, but recruiting is being done by HR. So what is HR doing? Well, they do everything. I'm like, they're all gonna quit, bro. Like, it's not the same thing. And especially now, it's not the same thing. If you have an HR person that needs to know compliance, benefits, payroll, rewards, PTO, all the shit that HR people do,
Right.
also learn, and then also learn what you need in a knock or any of this stuff, it's impossible. So it becomes a problem on that size when you've got an HR person that's really great at HR and does their job and everything that comes with, and then that person also has to learn technical, either learn it or they pass through everybody to the leadership to interview, right? I really like this
That was my
person.
problem.
Right. I really like this person. And then what else? What else happens there? So I really like Chuck. I rejected James. Why did you reject James? Well, he was a little bit quiet and unenthusiastic in the interview. Well, James is a PHP genius, which is almost impossible to find these days. And he's quiet because he doesn't care about people. He wants to do his shit and get paid and go home. So Pam rejected James, or Chuck passed through James because he was really great to talk to, and he doesn't know shit. So now you have where you have non-technical people in this role, and I'm sure they do a great job. US Signal is doing great. At some point though, HR and recruiting are a different function for a reason. Now that goes back to what we talked about earlier. If recruiters suck, what's the difference, right? If I'm not, as a recruiter, going to expand my knowledge base, HR might as well do it because I'm just throwing shit against the wall too. They might as well throw shit against the wall and save some money. So
It's a
that's
few
what
theories,
managers
right?
don't understand, especially leadership. HR can do recruiting. Okay. Well, at some point, you're either going to hire somebody horrible or get sued. So,
No, those are great points because I've experienced that myself, and I found myself and at that point, it was a decision of mine. I either had to get really involved from the start, in order to make sure that we were getting the right individuals. Like I ended up having to make like some of the scripts, like, hey, ask them, like you can ask them whatever you guys want to ask them, but make sure you at least ask them these things, like these questions, ask them this, just tap me on the shoulder when it's done. I'll review it and I'll give you a yay or a nay, right? You can tell me from
okay.
your perspective how it went.
Right, and
But
that's problematic because
it is
Ryan has other stuff that you should like, right? So unless it's hiring on a really small scale, it is not a good idea ever. Because and I say this all the time, you know why the hiring manager is not getting back to you? Because they have an actual job that is not hiring, their title is not hiring manager. And that's
right,
something that people just don't get. I don't get feedback in a timely, it's a 20-person company. You hit up the director of engineering who's probably also writing code or running whatever they're doing.
right.
No shit. They didn't get back to you. Like they're not actually called the hiring manager. There is no decision maker title. They have other stuff to do. And so when you're doing it, it's taking you away from your actual employees, putting more burden on them. We can't get rid
Yeah.
of it yet, is the point, right? So I don't
Well,
know.
I also think like the example you use with like tons of jobs open, right? That's a great example. How many of those are staying open way longer than they should be, which is it's monetary at that point, or was the role needed? Toss it up. I don't know.
Yeah.
But then how many hires are we making that's the wrong fit because we're taking forever to get somebody because we didn't source it properly? It's like all of those scenarios run through my mind where I go, maybe you're getting lucky and you are filling them with good people to your point, but I'm willing to bet that you run into that eventually where you're either it's staying open for way longer than it should, or you're putting bad
Yeah.
fits because you got to fill it.
Yeah, and that's what it is, right? It's not painful. It's not pain until it's painful. So you put up like
Yeah, that's a good
we had
point.
one that I worked on forever. It was a Salesforce dev, and there was just a hiccup. I mean, it was a constant hiccup, but it was a hiccup in the process that always delayed the offer, and they needed it. And I'll tell you, I had probably 200 applications. I finally found a person that would fit the culture, would work on site, and was willing to take the money they were willing to offer. And their process took an extra month, and he got a job. And but then it is painful. And so in the case of when you see these, the recruiter ones are bad too, but some of them they just leave up. I mean, that's what you're gonna see across all. I would rather see them. I think there's a couple in Grand Rapids especially, but they have an evergreen role. Like I would rather see join our talent pool than what you're talking about, where we had a client a couple of years ago that they would leave a software engineer role open indefinitely remote, and I'm like, you have to have 10,000 applications. Like, why would you leave that open? It is reflective of the company. Leave it open as a join our talent pool. Don't have someone go in and research the company and spend time on it. It leaves a bad taste in their mouth. And we're in a market right
Right.
now where we're in a market right now where people can treat people poorly and they'll still find someone. This is cyclical. The employment is cyclical. I've seen this before. It will happen again. This is something I remind people of constantly. It feels bad now, but it never lasts, right? It ends. And we will flip back to, if this H-1B thing goes the wrong or right or wrong way, depending on your situation, remote work is going to come back immediately. There will be massive amounts of jobs open. And there should be anyway. Some of the stuff that they were doing with that is awful. You will see salaries rise, especially in business process engineering, the things that we lost during the overhiring. And then guess what? Microsoft shit on everybody and laid off thousands of people. People are not going to apply there. They're going to apply at the smaller companies first that weren't in the news for laying off X amount of people and then replacing them with offshore or H-1B. So it is cyclical, and it will come back to a candidate driven market instead of now as employer driven. Some companies are going to shut down, and I will be really frank about it. I've worked with a couple of them briefly, but there are companies out there that are able to hire people and give them poor process, treat the agencies involved like crap, and just all around be bad. They won't get an application. The Glassdoor reviews, the word of mouth. No one thinks in that long term anymore because we move so much, and it's problematic for so many reasons. But this is bad. It's bad right now, and it's an extended period of bad, but it will end because all things do.
Yeah, I feel like that. I felt like in my most recent career, I've been in two spots where I've had to look for jobs because my employment was no longer there. The
Mhm.
first time, I was lucky that my trend and everything worked out great. I had like 20 interviews in 35 days. I had one day where I literally wore the suit all day because I had five interviews that day, and I just sat in the suit and had the interviews, and I had a job within 35 days of my last job, and I told myself I wasn't really looking for like I was entertaining it because if the right fit came by, that's what I had in my head at that time. I wanted the right fit. I had left a bad situation. I wanted fit more than I wanted anything
Yeah,
else.
I remember this talk actually, I think.
Yeah. And this company moved very quickly. It ended up being Iris, actually. I mean, it's not a secret.
Mm.
Iris moved very quickly. They even apologetic, like they were like, "Oh, we're so sorry, we got back to you late." And I'm like, "Well, we interviewed on like a Thursday. I think you got back to me on a Tuesday. There was a weekend. Like that was really only like 2 business days in between. Like that's unheard of, especially now." So I was like, "Okay, fine, I'll join it." Right, and it worked out great. But this time around, I've had interviews. I do think I have a very good resume, so I'm told. I have a lot of certifications and degrees and experiences at this point versus last time. The individuals or companies coming out of the woodwork that I'm getting, I'm like, wow, this wouldn't even, I wouldn't even take in the interview the first time around because I can read the red flag from across the room, but I'm having to take the interviews to hope that maybe it's not. 9 out of 10 it is. And I'm like, so yeah, now it's just about get to a place where maybe the domino, like you said, it swings. The pendulum will swing back. That maybe I can outlast the pendulum, or what I'm doing on the side takes off. One of those two,
Mhm.
and you don't have to be at a horrible place that you don't want to be in that regard anymore. But
Right.
uh, it, it takes me into a really good question about the job market. What kind of trends have you seen lately? Like what kind of movement, positive or bad? Like are there certain positions that are going like that are rebounding better, or are they all still trending pretty bad,
It's
or are
so
you seeing
weird. It's
things?
like it's so we hit where I thought I was gonna take off pre-election.
Hmm.
Tariffs happen. I have nothing political about it, but it's so affected right now. The world is so affected by every political thing, and it would be with either
Right.
outcome. I don't know what is or not better, but tariffs scared everyone. We saw a little bit of a pickup, and then I don't know. We lost our government stuff because of a really dumb. It wasn't even the government that did it. It was just a really bad decision maker. So
Gotcha.
that hurt. We've seen sales stay like as far as salespeople, we've seen that kind of hiring, but that's usually like the first to be hired. So because we need the money to pay the engineers. So usually sales and recruiters, then mid-level. And we're kind of in that where I've gotten some mid-level orders recently. Honestly, our probably our 3 in a row before I leave UA officially, because I'm still gonna be helping, like advising. My three placements that are gonna happen here at the tail end are lead Unity developer, which is a management role, pays a lot. Design engineering manager, which is more AI and CNC, and then director of IT. Oh, 3 director roles in a row is a good sign. And I don't know what other agencies do, but I work about 80 hours a week, or I was working about 80 hours a week. I am a relentless business development person and I recruit. So if I'm hitting in a split role and carrying a lot of the marketing, these kinds of roles, then other people are probably, I have a big network, so it's hard for me to gauge what everybody else is doing. But I'm seeing placements. Like it's not as bad as it was pre-summer. Pre-summer was a shit show. Like I was scared. So I probably should have got a job in May. But also I've been officially open to work, which I didn't use a green banner, but that's whatever. I'm open to work on the back end. So I've had 12 interviews in a week ish. So I've already had one rejection from an internal referral, which I'm mad about. But because the recruiters never talked to me after an internal referral from a director of engineering, which is wild to me. I would fire someone. But that's me, right? So I've had some good interviews, but the fact that even I know I'm a little bit different than a normal recruiter, I'm shameless about my self promotion, which is what you have to be, I think, in this market. Me
Yep.
getting that many interviews and referrals is a good sign as well. Like there's recruiters being hired, which means that usually that means the market's turning a little bit. I know there's recruiters out there that can't get interviews. If you're only applying for remote jobs, stop. Like, stop. I've gotten one interview from my application. The rest has been referral or me writing an email. So,
No, that
yes,
makes
it
sense.
looks like it's turning, but every time I say that, something happens. So,
Yeah, the news cycle is so like, you've mentioned a few of the things so far that we're waiting to see, right? That could really affect the market, right? Especially with all the foreign jobs and everything. Like if that hits, that's another
I
massive
don't,
change.
I gotta tell you, there are jobs that Americans do not learn and cannot do, and I'm fine with that program. But when it comes to BA, PM, full stack engineer, DBA. There's a lot of stuff that program is just taking advantage of. And I am an American that wants America to be successful. We do not need to farm out those kinds of roles. Golang developer, have it. I don't give a shit. El Quant, there are some Chinese people that I've placed in those roles. They will destroy any amazing people, and they will destroy any American that comes up against them. Period. Hands down. Forget about it. I placed a guy that had won like 10 math competitions in China into a quant role. Good luck against my guy Lin. You're not gonna beat him, and he wants to be here. He's getting his green card. The rest of the shit, if they're not here for the purpose of trying to become an American citizen and helping us develop towards a better future, I don't care. And I see all this stuff on LinkedIn, the defense and xenophobia and stuff. First of all, that's not what that word means. And secondly, go on LinkedIn and scroll for 2 seconds without seeing 100 engineers that are losing their homes because they got laid off, because it's cheaper to hire. You can pay a full stack dev $20 an hour, and then their vendor takes the other 40, and they live 12 deep in a shitty house. The acceptance of this as a practice blows my mind so bad. I have a lot of opinions about that, but sorry, you got to hire American people first, and there's a lot of unemployed people. If Americans are qualified to do the job, whoever, Google, Tata Consultancy, all these Kaiser Permanente, they should not be able to hire a business analyst for whatever they're paying when there's an American willing to go on site and do that job. If we're going to do remote, then nobody's got any complaints coming. If you force remote only, then hire offshore. If it's on site, American available, hire the American. That's my opinion. I have been so close to snapping on LinkedIn, and I know this is going to go there, but nobody's going to get hour and 49 minutes deep in a podcast, probably. Yeah, that is pissing me off so bad. My job would be easier, bro. Like, if I can use an H-1B to fill a role, there are 20 emails in my spam. Let me look. There is at least, I cleared it out earlier, so maybe not. Okay, 6. Since we started talking, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 with resumes and names and profiles of H-1B people trying to work. And I guarantee you those lists are like that long. With every role you can imagine, my job would be like that. You wouldn't need me, right? Of course I should want it to be easier. And maybe that's why I see these recruiters saying, oh, you guys are just xenophobic because of blah, blah, blah. Man, like, talk to a couple people outside your bubble. You can fill that role with somebody here. Why are we doing this?
Yeah,
It's annoying.
he very much could. Super frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
However, on that topic, let's go ahead and hear a message from our sponsor.
Hey everyone, Ryan here from Tricentra. What can AI do for your business? At Tricentra, we turn artificial intelligence into real results, smarter decisions, and streamlined operations, along with new opportunities for growth tailored to your unique needs. Our team helps you harness AI in ways that make an immediate impact while preparing your business for what's ahead. With Tricentra, AI works for you. Visit tricentra.com and book a consultation today.
Welcome back, everyone. Now let's dive into Richie's new book and why he believes recruiters need both head and heart to survive. So you wrote a book. I mean,
It's right
that's
here.
the cool
proof.
thing.
The proof of the book, it's getting pretty thick. Head and heart. I have that filter on, but head and heart. It's winning the AI recruiting war. The book goes into, we've hit so many topics from it anyway, and I actually think I told a story out of it already. Not sure if I cut that or not. So the book just goes into, this is what I say about AI. AI is great as a seasoning, but if I take salt and pour it over my dish without stopping, I'm ruining the meal, right? So AI should be a seasoning. And that's kind of what this goes into. It talks about my time in the music industry and how that led to recruiting. There are literally, so the book started off as, it was called Recruiting with Love and Bacon or something dumb, because I used to put bacon in all my posts as a joke. People remembered me for it. I've since changed it. I rewrote it. It's chock full of, it's got a thing for agencies, specifically recruiting divisions of agency and internal, where it gives you roadmaps for AI. There are sections for job seekers that have templates down to counter offers. Like, it's got everything. So that's the second half. The first half is a bunch of analogies and things like that. Just stories about like what I've done in recruiting. It's got like firing a bad client. It's got when you know a client's good. It's how to gauge those clients. And the point of the book is not only to help out recruiters with AI and integration, but also to give job seekers a kind of a look inside of what it really takes on our end of it. So that's where it came from. There's pictures for the people that need them. You know, it's one of those
Remember
things.
commenting on that post. So when does the book come out? When are you thinking it's coming?
I think I'm going to do, this podcast won't be out, but unless you release it today, I'm going to do a pre-sale Friday of September. That'll be like, I'm going to leave it open and see if anybody actually wants like a copy with me to sign it. I'm not famous, but I know people like that for their whatever. And then I think that if everything goes well, editing is almost done. I have someone going through right now. The target is Halloween, so October 31st for the actual release of the book. Available on Kindle and paperback. Not doing hardcover. Mike Pedetto's awesome, but that's insane. That's so cool. He did only hardcover, but the cost of that, and I don't think he made any money off that. So, or maybe, I'm not sure. But he sold a lot of copies. I just don't want to do a hardcover. It costs me too much money.
I think that Halloween is a perfect date for what recruiting is right now. So I think it kind of lines up.
Right? Because we're gonna see the stupid ghost, the what is it, the Spencer gifts or whatever, the Spirit Halloween,
Pure Halloweens,
the
yes.
meme with the ghost, the sheet, and it's like recruiter. I'm gonna get sent that at least 50 times over the next month. So yeah, Halloween's
The
good.
job market of
Actually, it's a really good
2025.
marketing idea for me. So it's a recruiter book coming out on Halloween.
I think it's amazing.
Perfect.
Yes.
Perfect. Brilliant.
So let's go ahead and just transition down to some really fun personality segments and get you on out of here.
Okay.
So really quick fire, coffee or cocktails?
Coffee. I don't drink, so coffee.
Well, the very easy one then. I like this one. Recruiter or rock promoter? Concert promoter. How about that?
If I was in my 20s or even is rock promoter, but recruiter now, safer. Go to bed on time, you know?
Yeah, very much not on tour. Remote work or conference hustle?
God, I'm tired of remote work, conference. I mean, like, honestly, I would like hybrid, honestly. I think the offer I'm going to take is a remote, but I go on site occasionally, I think. So definitely I'm a hybrid person.
Yeah, no, I get that. There's the extrovertedness that from at home that is like I need to go fulfill that, and then I'm fulfilling it in not great ways, as in I need to be around a set of individuals that
Yeah.
are working with my personality, and if I'm
Yeah.
not doing that with like-minded individuals, then yeah, I'm just seeing people that I could see anywhere at a grocery store. So I understand. LinkedIn DM or backstage pass?
Backstage, I hate LinkedIn. Backstage pass all day.
So remember that when you send Richie a message, because yeah, I send him emails occasionally now.
Yeah.
Startup hire or arena headliner?
I don't know. Startups suck lately. Arena headliner.
Hard work, very much so. If recruiting were a rock anthem, what would it be? What song would you highlight in this era of recruiting?
There used to be a song when I worked at TGI Fridays. I don't remember. I'm a bad singer, but it goes like, I don't mean to walk around in circles, walk around in circles. It's that. Whatever that song is, I don't know. Somebody's gonna know what it is.
I hope so, because that's so what it is when you say it.
Every job I've ever had, same thing. TGI Fridays, waiting tables. That song played, and I was like, this is literally what we do. Even like I did a carpentry apprenticeship. It's like repetitive tasks. Recruiting is a little more creative, but just lately it's like submit, interview. See somebody else, submit, interview. Who else do you have? Like the ones we hit, I'm always shocked when it happens. I'm like, So you're done? Somebody signed an offer? What the hell? Okay. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, you lose the personality and the human connection part of it when you're
Mhm.
just in that cycle.
Mhm.
So, couple more. One lesson for recruiters who feel burned out by the system. What would you say for
Get
that
back
cycle
on
as a great
honestly,
example?
get back on the phone, talk to people, because I guarantee if you're burned out, you're not ever talking to anybody. That's really what gets me through my day is scheduling meetings, even if I don't have shit to do. I'll schedule meetings with people that have interesting backgrounds, and, that's what keeps it fresh for me 14 years in. That's what still excites me about it.
And lastly, do you have any advice for the job seekers that are in the market or the recruiters that want to get to the percentages that you've talked about throughout the show? They're the ones that need to make the
Uh
human connection.
Be a fucking savage, period. Like, go. You froze, Ryan. Um, you have to get out there and be savage about it, be bold, and be noticed.